Talamoana Exiles Talkative Try here with another stop on the Path of Exile to Hype Train Still Sane Pod Circuit. That is a mouthful. Tonight we speak to Big Ducks about everything PoE2 related. He was at that recent LA event. He played the mercenary for 8 hours, and he is an absolute wizard when it comes to bestowing wisdom on us about Path of Exile in general. Tonight it's Big Ducks. Tomorrow it's game director Jonathan Rogers. The day after that, it is Neversink. Without further ado, let's get into the pod. Someone loves Big Ducks. Okay, well, that's good because guess who we're talking to today? It's Big Ducks, and we are talking about all things Path of Exile 2. Man, I got to start with it. You just played Path of Exile 2 for like 8 hours in LA as the mercenary. How
Yeah.
was your time playing?
Honestly, because you were at the console one, right? Like you were at the console event.
I was.
Yeah, in the console event, it still definitely felt like it was in like beta or maybe alpha or whatever you want to call it. This time, it really did genuinely feel like we were for real playing the game. It felt like I don't know, like 90% of the way there, like 95% of the way there. Like the waypoints were all done. Like the progression just felt so much smoother. The monsters didn't have any of those like little problems that we experienced back then, and like the mercenary in particular, as I kind of said in my video, like there's some problems early on, but once you get going, it honestly feels pretty good.
Yeah. So you think the balance was intact then? It felt good. It maybe was just the mercenary itself that takes some time to ramp before it just starts blasting through monsters.
Yeah, when I talk to everybody else, because I spent actually quite a bit of time, like the last 45 minutes or so, just kind of like getting like the vibe from everybody that was there. Because it was mostly Diablo 4 people, which was a little weird. Like Diablo 4 and like there was a bunch of media there. It was probably at least half media people, honestly.
Wow. So a
And
lot of games journalists and the like.
yeah, there was a ton of journalists. It really felt more like a media event than like a gamer event, honestly. Um, but uh, but yeah, everybody said it mostly felt okay. The people that played the mercenary and tried to play the crossbow said like, yeah, first 20-30 minutes were pretty rough. I personally think that I'm gonna start, if I start the mercenary and I want to do crossbow, I'm just gonna use like a two hand for like the first 30 minutes. But um but yeah, the balance felt really solid. I didn't get those like weird situations where it just kind of felt like a monster was super powerful. Like I don't know if you experienced this when you were playing, but the wolves in the first zone outside of town felt like really off balance wise when we played at the console event.
They
But all
massacred
those,
my wife and I. Massacred.
yeah, all of those little things weren't, they weren't really there anymore. It felt like much more like like the slope going of difficulty wasn't as spiky as it was before.
Well, I was going to ask about that. So I understand that they probably toned down and fixed some areas. Is the
Mhm.
difficulty still there even in Act 1? Because I got my ass kicked by the executioner for an hour and a half before. Is it still
So,
difficult or no?
what class did you play?
We were playing the monk, and I had
Yeah.
no rare gear. I just had magic and normal items. And then my wife was the ranger, and she had all the rares. And she, every time I died, she felt like she had to resurrect me. So then she'd die, and then we
That's
just keep
funny.
restarting.
Yeah, so my second time playing through, it was definitely a lot easier for me. I do feel that like there was some like balance changes that made it a little bit easier, but all of the difficulty was still there. It just felt like for me, if you were playing the monk, I kind of understand because when I was playing the monk, a big difference between that and the mercenary is the mercenary, it feels like, you know how in Path of Exile 1 you kind of run past stuff, like you don't really like stop and kill every single pack. You kind of just run, you kill stuff that you can as you go by. The mercenary can do that a lot more. I didn't feel that way on the monk. I felt like on the monk, if I came out to a difficult pack, I had to fight it and treat it like a RT, like a what's it called, like an RTS battle is basically how I had to, is felt how I had to deal with it. Like if I got some like crazy difficult rare ranged mob back in the console event, as the monk, it was like I just almost didn't know what to do. With the mercenary, I had way less problems.
Yeah. And you have more options too, because obviously there's the
Mhm.
crossbow and then grenades is what I'm really curious about. How did those feel? Did they feel clunky because you have to aim them and they have the physics and they bounce and all that? Or did it feel okay, even at the start?
So I didn't play a lot with the damage grenades, but I did talk to Havoc a lot, which he played with the damage grenades. Overall, grenades felt really good to me. I used more of the utility grenades, like I used like the flash grenade that like builds stun. I tried some of the other grenades, but I actually got kind of screwed over in Act 3. I was gonna switch to a grenade build, and I just found I found one of the like skill gems that you can cut in the entirety of Act 3. Like I was there for like an hour and I only found one. So I didn't get to play any of those, but the footage that I saw from Havoc and from what he told me, grenades honestly probably feel better than the crossbow in general, I think.
Really? And can you turn them into your main skill, or are they more so bolstering crossbow shots and the like? I haven't watched any of Havoc's footage, and I haven't talked to him yet.
It seems like you can make them the main skill. One thing that I noticed a lot with the mercenary, and I think this is probably gonna go out into other areas of Path of Exile 2 as well, is that the combo system seems insanely important, right? Like if you try to be stubborn and just use one ability and just like attack, attack, attack forever and not do anything else, not try to do the combos, not try to do like the utility skills, it really feels like you're behind by a huge amount. Like when I was in Act 3, if I was just using what I'd probably say is like my main ability, like if I was just using like fragmentation shot, I don't know, maybe it takes me like 15 or 20 seconds to kill something. If I use the combos, it's dying in like one or two hits. And
Ooh.
it's just such a significant difference most of the time.
Did you feel any button pressure? I don't remember. Did you have the flask system, the new flask system on your build,
The new
or was
flash
that
system, yeah.
you
New
did?
flash
So
system is awesome, by the way.
it is. Okay.
It's so much better. It's
Yeah.
because you can get this feeling where you just know where life is, you know where mana is, and they don't feel like flasks anymore. Like obviously they have charges, but you kind of just it's like, oh, I need health, I'll press the health button. Oh, I need mana, I'll press the mana button. But
Mm-hmm.
button pressure, I mean a little bit. The problem that I have with the mercenary in general, it's not really a problem, but I think the thing that people might run into is that there's kind of this feeling that you get with the ammo system because when you press a button for ammo, right? All that your character does is loads the ammo. That's it. That's all the button press does. So if you're trying to use two different kinds of ammo, let alone like three different kinds of ammo, it can get like a little square fingers, but it's honestly not too bad because you have one universal button that you fire all of your ammo with, right? Like whatever you've loaded into the crossbow, it's all fired with one button. So it does feel a little weird and it takes a little getting used to. It's not like a normal class where it's like you press the button, the spell goes out and it hits stuff. It's like you press the button, your character loads the ammo, it takes the mana as you're loading the ammo, and then you press the button to fire and it shoots. So it's a little bit different. It takes like a little while to get used to.
Yeah. Well, that sort of gameplay is brand new in Path of Exile 2. And another brand new thing that I think a lot of people are thinking might be busted is the Gemling Legionnaire. It's almost like the scion of Path of Exile 2. And I think it really leans into the fantasy that the mercenary is almost like a jack of all trades, in my opinion, like a bard in Dungeons and Dragons, where it seems that the more skills you pack onto the mercenary, the better you seem to be able to do. Whereas the warrior, I mean, that just looks like big bonk, hit, kill, you're done, right? The merc, it seems far more complex, and you can
I
choose,
agree.
right?
I think that my take on the Gemling Legionnaire is that from the I think I have it somewhere here. Hold on.
Yeah,
When
you're
I
good.
was looking at the ascendancy points, it's like my feeling on this is that from listening to Jonathan and hearing what everybody said about the game, it really feels like they intend for you to have a lot of different skills, right? Like just a ton of different skills at any given time. And in my opinion, I think the way that the Gemling Legionnaire is going to go is it's going to go in some kind of direction where you have like lots of procs because it one of the nodes gives you like three additional skill slots, right?
That's the thing that I'm thinking about. Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have to I have to assume that additional skill slots are probably really powerful because they have things like cast on ignite and cast on freeze and cast on electrocute, all those kinds of things, right?
All those buff
So
gems as well. Yep.
yeah, I imagine that the Gemling Legionnaire is going to be this kind of like kind of similar to the Scion, like the way that people play the Scion right now. I
Mm-hmm.
agree with that to an extent because it's like it depends on how good like gem quality is. It depends on how good like I'm sure it'll have like gem levels and things like that. So I mean, it's probably going to be like an obvious shoe in for minion builds and things like that, or certain kinds of like proc caster builds, which kind of fits with the whole idea of the mercenary. Anyways, it's like you're attacking and casting spells and maybe shooting a crossbow and doing this and doing that. It seems like you can do a little bit of anything you want. I'm
Yeah.
honestly I'm honestly a little bit more hyped for the Witch Hunter though. The Witch Hunter looks kind of nuts, if I'm gonna be honest with
All
you.
right,
That
go
like
in.
looking at the numbers. Okay, so who was it that talked about this a little bit? But when I saw the Witch Hunter, and this all kind of hinges on just one thing that we saw in the reveal, right? There's this ability called Decimating Strike, right? From what I heard when they were talking about Decimating Strike, it seems like it just takes 30% of the boss's health, right? Like this just takes it away. It didn't it didn't feel like it confirmed to me whether or not it's 100% chance for it to happen on every boss.
It's not, there's a
It kind
chance. There's a
Yeah,
chance.
it kind of felt like it was a chance, depending on how high that chance is and whether or not that damage is like actual raw damage. Like, is that damage going to apply ailments? Like, if it takes 30% of its health, is it like your full cold damage? Like, are you gonna freeze it instantly when it takes 30% of its health? Like, I don't know, right? And depending on that, the rest of the Ascendancy seems insane, anyways. But like, depending on that, it's probably going to be a pretty insane bossing character. Like, if your goal is to just roam around the Atlas and find bosses and kill bosses, it seems pretty insane. Like
It's
between, go ahead.
especially comboed with Culling Strike. I don't know if you saw that leaked node, but Culling
Yeah.
Strike on everything is also on the Witch Hunter. And someone in chat is correcting us. It's a 100% roll, but it's between 1% and 30% that it deals on
Oh,
the first
okay. So
strike.
so it's the percentage that it takes is random. Okay. Yeah, and I
Exactly.
saw about Culling Strike. The thing about it is that it's different depending on the rarity of the monster, right?
Yeah, that's accurate. I was supposed to include it in my video today. I even say in the video, I should be putting up a chart right now showcasing how different it is between each one. And of course, I forget. And I have 100 comments saying, no chart, man. What's going on? Totally
Hey,
forgot.
at least it's engagement, dude. That's
I
good.
know,
But
I know. I felt really bad. But I know what you mean, though. I feel like it'll be a very strong early league character, too,
Mhm.
given how, one, you said bossing, of course. And then it has like explosions, too. And it's better against demons and undead. What?
Yeah, I'm always a little
What?
skeptical of those kinds of lines on nodes, like hyper specific lines like that. I'm always a little skeptical, but that node also has the 10% chance for enemies to explode, dealing life as fizz damage. So I mean, you take it anyways, right? But it's like undead and demons.
And everything is completely random, ducks. So it's not like,
Hmm.
oh, if I go to the swamp biome, there's more demons there, right? No, it's
Hmm.
all, I mean, I guess Breach is like demons, maybe. See, this is why they need a bestiary. I don't even know what
I
demons are classified as.
I'm wondering how like the Atlas zones actually work, because the way that it seemed like they were talking, it seemed like they were saying that it's almost all complete RNG what monsters show up. I'm wondering if there's going to be like is each biome going to have like a certain base couple of types of monsters that can show up, so there's some consistency. I would imagine it'd have to be like one base type or something, right? I wonder how random it's going to be, because one criticism I think a lot of people had in PoE1 was those, you know how you just kind of they just say you get PoE'd, you know what I mean? It's like you get that perfect combination of events where it's just there's nothing that you can do, and the game just decides, yeah,
Mhm.
we rolled the dice and you're just dead and there's nothing to do about it. I wonder how frequent that's gonna feel.
I feel like they're doing all in their power to prevent that from happening, given the fact that you have one life on a map. I think
Yeah.
something that I really am curious about, dude. How often do one shots occur in the game in Endgame right now? They've probably had a solid 3, 4 months of internal testing. Maybe they ran some closed betas. If they're doing this one and done, you lose everything in the map, right? You lose access to a pinnacle boss. You lose access to a unique map potentially if you die. I swear, if there are one shots prevalent in the game, if you're building defensively, that's got to be wild. Do you think there's still one shots that are prevalent
My
or?
my take on it when I was playing in this last event is
Yeah.
that it really genuinely does feel like they don't want you to just randomly get like some kind of bullshit death, right? Like they don't want you to just suddenly feel like you're out of control. Most of the time, I would say like 90 to 95% of any deaths that I had when I was there, it felt like it was my fault that I died, right? It didn't feel like the game just kind of like screwed me over. In Path of Exile 1, a lot of the time it can just kind of feel like where you just want to throw your hands up and you're just like, what am I supposed to do there, right? In PoE2, it feels like, well, yeah, I probably could have like not walked down this little path, or I could have, hit this enemy instead to be able to get out of the whole entire group of enemies surrounding me. As for the pseudo hardcore stuff, I have a feeling that it's gonna be pretty unpopular, like just in the broad audience. Like I don't think people like pseudo hardcore mechanics. I am hopeful that they do it well, and they said that they have made it more rewarding. Like that's the trade-off, right? Is that it's going to be more rewarding, and bosses and maps will give you more items because you can only die once in the map, right? Like you only have one chance. But my only concern, if I have a concern for this, is like, how long does it take to get to a pinnacle boss? Like, are
Right.
we farming for 2-3 hours to be able to get to this pinnacle boss, and then you have one chance? And say it's the first time that you've ever seen the pinnacle boss. Like, how how is it gonna feel if you run into the pinnacle boss and you die and you can't really do anything about it, and it's like multiple hours until you can get back in there? That's really my only concern about it, really. So
Ducks, why are you like showcasing my future to me? I know this is going to be me. I'm going to walk into the Pinnacle Boss Arena, find, Zana at Ziri, whoever the heck is in that maze below the Atlas, walk in, voice line, and I'm going to get Cirrus die beamed or something. And I'm just going to be like,
well,
okay,
you just should have
well,
built tankier, man. Like
I
just
should have
just
built
like
tankier because
pick your shield up and just block whatever abilities they got coming at you. You'll be fine, dude. Just play a full tank build and have it take like 6 hours for you to kill the boss. You'll be
there you
right.
go. I'll quit it. It'll be totally fine. I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
dude.
Now I'm actually curious about this. I think it's leading into a cool topic because I know a lot of your content is guide based. You put out some
Mhm.
darn good guides about Path of Exile 1. However, I and I think many others are inclined to go into Path of Exile 2 as blind as possible. Sure, right now everybody is absorbing every ounce of Path of Exile 2 information on the internet. Then everybody says when PoE2 hits, they're going cold turkey. No Reddit, no Twitter, no YouTube, going into Path of Exile 2 blind and playing it themselves. I would love to go into the Pinnacle boss completely blind. I probably will try to do it if I can get there. But what do you think the scene is going to look like in terms of guides for PoE2? Do you think there's going to be a large audience of people that are chasing them on the internet? Are you going to put any out? What do you see that looking like in the next month, month and a half?
I think that people don't know what they want most of the time. If I've learned anything about the internet, is that people will say a lot of things and almost always it's wrong. Like anything that they say is almost always wrong. I do think that the best way to go into Path of Exile 2 is almost completely blind. In game, you have essentially the wiki now, right? Like it's in there. You have every bit of information that you could possibly want. There's almost no need for a wiki like page anymore because of how good that feels. But I think most people are probably going to go in. They're going to play their first character. There's going to be a large percentage of people that just absolutely utterly fail on their first character and be like, all right, it's time to go look up a guide. And they're going to copy what other people are doing. They're going to play it. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. I think that it's way more fun, and honestly, most of the enjoyment in these kinds of games, and the biggest reason that I'm actually happy to be excited about Path of Exile again, because it's been kind of teetering off for me for years now. But it's the exploration. It's actually like knowing that I potentially could have to figure this stuff out myself, and it's not like, oh, I want to play this build, and then I go on PoE Ninja, and there's like 15 people who've been playing it for 600 hours, and they already know absolutely everything. Everything's already discovered. Everything's already done. There's nothing for me to figure out, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
if I go and try to make this build, and it's like Rue, Ben, Junggrown, and 4 other people have already made it 6 different POVs for. It's like, what's the point of me even trying at this point, right? It seems like in PoE2, we're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff to do. The game's going to be different. There's all kinds of, with the double skill trees and being able to like specialize into 2 things at once and having all of the support gems and utility gems and all this. It feels like there's so much more customization that's going to be available for the game that it's going to be really hard to come up with the same build as someone else. Maybe the first, like the main pieces, but all of like those secondary or tertiary pieces are going to be, there's just going to be too many of them. Like how, sure, some of them are going to be better and some of them are going to be worse, but like that's the thing that actually has me excited, is just figuring stuff out for the first time, finally.
Yeah, the possibilities seem to be endless as we go into it, especially with things that we don't even know about yet, like unique items. We have combos working with skills explicitly. They want us to use many different skills and use them together in different and varying ways. But then there's also all these unique items. We've only seen, I think, like 23 out of the 200 plus that will launch with early access. And by launch, they plan to have 700. Now, I'm sure some of them will just be one C or one elk, whatever the new currency is, uniques. But I think that they're building with the intent behind us combining not only skills together, but this skill and that unique and these two uniques
Mhm.
together and this ascendancy with this particular unique with this skill. And like you said, it's going to be very hard unless you explicitly copy someone off the internet to have the exact same build. That's what I'm really excited about as someone who I'm very upfront about this. I'm not a build creator at all. I don't think I'm very intelligent when it comes to that. I don't use POB. I only put out POBs because people are like, what are you playing? And my POB is the trashiest thing ever. But I still like trying to cobble stuff together. And it seems like for someone like myself, this game is going to allow me to do that and perhaps succeed because of how it
I
explains it
agree.
in the
Yeah.
game, which is very exciting.
I think that the onboarding process of PoE2 is night and day from PoE1, right?
Hmm.
Something that I think people should at least try, even if you fail. I think it's an enjoyable experience. I think it's a good experience for people to try. The guardrails on PoE2 are so much better. They're so significantly better than PoE1. PoE1 has no guardrails. You get thrown in, you get given one skill and a support gem, and that's the only choices that they make for you in the entire game. Nothing else is given, right? In PoE2, you can pretty much identify at least 2 or 3 builds per class that seem like they would work, right? Like it makes sense, right? You can find a couple of skills that'll go together, and the passive tree is made in that, well, if my skill says it's a grenade and there's grenade skills down here on the passive tree, I'm going to go for the grenade points, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
skill tree, or the passive tree rather, is a lot more simple this time around. I don't think if people realize how much more simple it is.
Okay.
PoE1's skill tree has like a lot of complicated and intense nodes, I would say. PoE2's skill tree, passive tree, is way, way, way more simple. There's interesting effects spread out throughout it, but it's a lot of just like, you just get more attack damage. You just get more two-hand damage. Like a slightly higher chance to get, your projectile skills to apply debuffs. Like
Hmm.
a small chance to get, an additional hit or something like that. It's not this highway of life nodes and just like huge crazy effects on every single node. It's way more simple. So if you pick up a class and you like say you want to play a big beefy warrior, I think you could genuinely, as a brand new player with enough time spent, you could make a good build that uses either like a big two-hand or a one-hand and a shield, or a two-hand and a shield if you want to go the new cool Titan's grip or whatever it's called. You could make that build yourself with no help and probably make it to endgame and probably be okay. Like I don't think that's an impossible task if you were willing to put 40 hours into it, right? Like I think that's possible. In PoE1, I don't tell my friends to play PoE1. Like I
Oh.
don't suggest people to play PoE1, to be honest with you, because like knowing my friends, they're gonna be like, what are you trying to make me play, dude? What is this like? What is this, dude? Like, am I playing spreadsheets? Am I like, why am I pressing the P button and then there's suddenly 800,000 things in front of me? Why is there like 70 skill gems inside the first vendor? Like, what am I supposed to choose? Like, what am I doing? I don't suggest PoE1 to people. PoE2, I kind of feel comfortable if my friend was like, hey, you're a content creator, right? What game do you play? And I don't have to like play it off as some other bullshit. I could just be like, oh, PoE2. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that game. That sounds pretty cool.
So play PoE2, not PoE1, new players,
True.
essentially. Yeah?
Honestly, I I know this kind of seems like hyperbolic, but when I got my hands on PoE2 this time, right? The second time, right? When it was so hard not leaking the end game. I've known about the end game for like a month basically, right? Like I've known about it for, it was so hard. I wanted to tell people so bad, but I held back. Every every time that I've gotten my hands on PoE2, every time that I see new updates, to me, it feels like this is just in almost every way, not every way, but almost every way, is just a direct upgrade to PoE1, right? It doesn't really feel, at least in my mind, I have to ask myself the question. I'm like, how often am I gonna go back to PoE1 now? At first, I thought it was gonna be a lot, right? I thought I would just be like jumping back and forth and doing like a month of PoE1, a month of PoE2, and taking like small breaks in between. And now I have to wonder, like, am I gonna play PoE1 for like 4 or 5 days? Like maybe play one build and then just jump back into PoE2 and like explore more stuff? It's like, what am I gonna do? And I even there were some group interviews. I don't know if these ever got posted anywhere. I don't know if PoE2 said anything about them, but I was asking Jonathan questions in the group interview about whether or not it's intended to feel just like a straight upgrade, right? And he said, yeah, that's kind of what it's meant to be. We expect people to want to go to PoE2 instead of PoE1. I did confirm with him. I asked him like specifically once or twice. I'm like, do you guys still plan on supporting PoE1? And he said, yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep making leagues. We're going to use it as kind of like an environment to test things. And I think there will be a small percentage of people that stick with PoE1. Like there's going to be this like group of people who really just want this arcade style explode the screen with bajillions of explosions and colors and stuff. There's going to be people that want that. PoE1's going to be that game for them. I'm really feeling like 80 to 90% of people are going to go to PoE2. I really feel like it's going to be that big of a split.
That's what I've heard from every single person who was either at that LA event or has played it in the past few weeks. Everyone's just saying, at this point, seeing the whole game, not the whole game, but what's going to release on early access, it's just a straight upgrade from PoE1. I
Yeah.
don't know how people who give both games a fair shot will go back to PoE1 and say, yeah, I'm good to play this for an extended amount of time. Maybe, like you said, a build here, a build there, maybe play a few challenges, check out a new league mechanic. But they just see PoE2 as already so much larger in terms of its end game just seems so much more different. Like the exploration of the end game, dude. Okay, let's just talk about it. Please
Yep.
tell me, when I go to the events, I'm usually like the loudest person that like I actually cheer and say like, yeah, nice. I don't know if you heard me at the console event, but I'm like, it's so quiet. Like when a boss
Yeah.
is down, I'm like, Octavian, heck yeah. Please tell me somebody cheered when the Atlas was
Okay.
shown.
Okay, so here's how it
Please.
went down, right? Okay, so there was only a small handful of like PoE people there, right? It was genuinely only a couple people. Like off the top of my head, I'm sorry if I'm forgetting you and you're watching, and even if I spoke with you, I'm awful with names, so I'm sorry if I forget you. The like PoE people that I remember being there was essentially like me, Havoc, Empyrean, Subtractum,
I know Dreamcore was there.
Dreamcore.
Anyone else?
What was that it? And then there was like 20 or 30 Diablo 4 people. Like there was a lot of Diablo 4 people. Like I hung out with Darth for a long time. I was there with Ruse, the guy behind Goblin Inc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was there with Dalcora, the guy from South Korea, and a bunch of other Diablo creators. Moxie, I talked with
Mm-hmm.
Moxie for a while. Like there was a bunch of Diablo 4 creators there, and then literally like 50 media people. It was mostly a media event. But now that I've kind of laid the stage of how many people there, the PoE people were all sitting together, right? Like all of us were kind of just like all together in this one little group. When
Apes
the
together
end game
strong.
hit, yeah, when the end game hit and we saw the end game, like there was like audible gasps near us. The rest of the crowd was like, "Oh, that's cool, that's interesting," but we were like, "Whole like, dude, I want to log in today. Like, are we gonna get to play end game today?" We didn't, but like that's what the feeling was near us, right? The D4 people were a little hyped. Like some of the like hybrid D4 like PoE people like Darth, they were hyped, but the media people were like, "Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, interesting." PoE people were like, "Let's go, dude, log in right now." So yeah, it was hype, dude.
That's awesome. And the new Atlas, it leaves so much room for them to just drop whatever the hell they want into it with these new nodes that they
Yep.
can make rarities for, and different this node is on the edge of a mountain and a river, and it's this special unique map that drops this special reward or has this league mechanic, and they can just, I mean, they can infinitely expand it. I just don't
Yep.
see limits on this, like I saw with the old Atlas, wherein, you know,
Yeah,
we went, go ahead.
I know there's a lot of people that are like making the comparison of like, oh, this just looks like they stole Last Epoch. Like, no, it doesn't look like they stole Last Epoch. Any good game is going to take all the good parts from other games and try to put it into their game, right? That's how humans work. But the new Atlas, I genuinely think this is, as much as I've seen some people say that it kind of looks like, I don't know. I've heard people say both that it looks too simple and it looks like there's not enough customization. And in my mind, it feels like the opposite. It feels like there's so much that you can do with the new Atlas. And I don't know if you feel this way. I don't know if chat feels this way, but I really genuinely like the idea of an interactive in-game experience instead of this just like set it and forget it in-game experience.
Yeah.
Like in PoE1, you essentially kind of figure out what you're doing and then you just kind of do it, right? I know there's a lot of people like I know that Zizarin said that he kind of wants to be able to turn his brain off while he's playing PoE because he streams like it's 36 hours a day. But like I don't want that. I want to be like in it, right? Like I want my
Hmm.
mind to be like enveloped by the game where I'm like trying to figure out like how can I min max this little area of the Atlas the best? Can I overlap all of the things at the same time and get everything put together so I can have this just like 3 or 4 insanely crazy maps that all just have like 15 mechanics? And I think that's actually a pretty big strength that a lot of people were upset by in PoE1 when they kind of made it so that you do one mechanic now in PoE1. In PoE2, it looks like voice crack. It looks like you could have like 15 mechanics on one little section of the map at the same time, and that seems hype for me, dude. Like I love the idea of just being able to have a ton of stuff all packed into one area of the Atlas. Like that's gonna be super cool, man.
Oh yeah, and you no longer need to choose anything, right? Splitting everything out into its own tree, so you can hyper specialize in each certain endgame mechanic, endgame system. They need a snappy term for those because we can't call them leagues in PoE2 anymore, right? An endgame system is kind of too long. We'll have to come up with
Mm-hmm.
something, but you can specialize in all them and they can drop new ones in just like that. It's infinitely expandable.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to rebalance how you path through a certain giant atlas tree. It they cooked. They really did. They
They
said,
did.
let's not
I
finish the
agree.
campaign. Let's work on the end game and make the best damn end game ever. And it's happening. It's finally happening.
Yeah,
So
like when I was at the event, the only like I typically try to be I'm a realist. I try to be pretty
okay.
honest with myself about my feelings on things, right? Like I don't mince words. I say how I'm feeling. I know a lot of people in the past have said like I like, oh, he's kind of a doom and gloom like drama farmer kind of. No, honestly, I just give you guys how I'm genuinely feeling about stuff.
Hell yeah.
I was literally like 99% positive when I was at that event. The only one little itty bit of like negativity I had is like, I kind of don't like the idea of cruel. Like we evolved from that and I'm kind of not hyped about that. But it's going away eventually, right? Like that's like the only little tiny bit that I'm worried about. Like I kind of don't like the idea of redoing the campaign a little bit. But everything else, dude, it looked so good. Everything about the end game looked super solid. People were complaining about like, oh, you know, in my chat specifically when I was doing the event stream, because I stream like 4 times a year at this point. I don't stream anymore. But everybody in my chat when the ascendancy thing came up and the its sanctum came up, my whole chat was so upset, and I'm like, chat, shut up. Just listen, okay? Just let them cook for a minute, all right? Just let them cook for like 5 minutes, okay? I just thought because I already knew. I was just like, shut up, chat, okay? Stop being so doom and gloom. Because like I know people got like upset about 1 or 2 things, but it really genuinely does feel like they are making it so that the main focus when it comes to content in PoE2 is you can just do what you want.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
even if you don't want to boss, like I know a lot of people when they do maps, they just want to make this super crazy map blaster and they don't really want to fight bosses. Like I know tier 17 maps and doing like Katarina stuff like that, a lot of that stuff can be painful, right? Like if your build isn't set up perfectly for it, it can be a little painful.
Hmm.
If you don't want to do bosses in PoE2, you don't have to do bosses in PoE2. You could
Yeah.
just go blast maps and kill rare mobs for like 16 hours straight, and you could log out and be fine with that, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
you being
Free.
able to choose anything to do is such a strong point of the game.
Oh yeah. And it's in all avenues. It's in Endgame, classes, all the like. The only limiter I feel like that people are going to have when it comes to builds now, we talked about it a little bit at the top, Ascendancies.
Yep.
I'm getting everyone's takes on this. I'm
Okay.
trying not to ask repeat questions in all these chats. There's going to be a lot of them. It's going to be hard to do. But I am asking everybody how they feel about powerful, game changing skills being locked behind Ascendancy classes specifically. What are your thoughts?
I
Like
made
the demon form, like the
I
succubus.
literally made a full video about this. I don't know how long ago. The funny thing is a lot of the takes that I've had over the years about like what should happen in PoE1, I'm so happy, and the reason that I'm so hyped is I've had these feelings for a super long time, and so many of them are coming in PoE2. The thing that I said, I don't know, like a year or two ago now, I made a whole video talking about every ascendancy should have something unique to it that makes it worth being chosen, right? It should have something, whatever that thing is, right? I know that PoE1 has kind of gone this way where they just want it to be as generic as possible, where it's like, sure, you could play a Deadeye as like a caster and just go caster spells, and you could play it as a ranged build and go range skills. You can play a Juggernaut as attack based, or maybe go Righteous Fire, or like I know that they've moved in that direction, but honestly, it's really cool having ascendancies that have such interesting mechanics that you feel like you can build your entire build around, right? Like looking at some of the new ascendancies, like what's the one? What is it called? The Infernalist.
Yeah.
I played World of Warcraft for a long time. Okay, like I
Okay.
know that's like a blemish on my soul and my life and my reputation. I played World of Warcraft for a long time. Okay, it was the game that I played before PoE. My favorite class in World of Warcraft was Shadow Priest. And my favorite time that I've ever had in my entire like WoW career of playing was this ability called Surrender to Madness in World of Warcraft in a expansion called Legion, right? It's basically this thing where you pop an ability and suddenly you start ramping the amount of damage that you do, and it just ramps and ramps and ramps and ramps. But it gets
Uh-huh.
harder and harder and harder to survive, right? Like if you mess up even one button press, you just die instantly, right? Like you just explode into a cloud of dust, right? When I see this like Infernalist Ascendancy and I see this whole thing where it's like you can get the demon form and it ramps the amount of damage that you do over time, and you can like mitigate that with healing yourself, like dude, that's just it's
Ooh.
so up my alley. It's probably gonna be like the second build that I play, something like that. But dude, it's so up my alley, you have no idea. Like
Oh, that's
the
awesome.
the fact the fact that I can have a build on the Infernalist that it feels like a new skill specific to that, just the I don't know what you call it. In other games, you call it class identity, but here I guess it's ascendancy identity. It just
Mhm.
it seems so cool, and I'm so glad they're going in this direction. Because as much as I feel like Path of Exile 1 gave us the ability to basically do anything that we want, it really feels like PoE1 is the illusion of choice almost always, right?
Mm-hmm.
The game
Mm-hmm.
is so mature and the game is so understood at this point, especially if you're someone that makes builds, especially if you're someone that like sits in POB and is like spending 4 hours going like, okay, so the difference between these two things is like 4% health, and I can get like maybe like 10% armor here, or maybe I can fit like 1% more man. Like if you're sitting there and doing that for 6 hours, it really just kind of feels like the illusion of choice, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have very many choices. POB kind of does the choice for you. It's like, well, this is the best thing that you can do. Like, if you're going to play a ranged attack ascendancy and you just want to clear the screen super well, you're probably going to play a Deadeye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're probably gonna stick with a Deadeye. If you're wanting to play some like super huge tanky like melee type, you're probably just gonna play something like a Juggernaut, right? Like you're just gonna do that. But being able to have entire new ascendancies that do like the Chayula ascendancy, like what is that? Like what am I looking at when I look at
And
these like
dude, we haven't even
removing
seen
all of
half the nodes.
I know it's like what do you mean I'm just gonna be in the breach the entire time? Like what the it's darkness instead of spirit? Like do I can't use auras anymore? Like what I don't know, man. It's just it's
See,
just so much, and they haven't given us all the information, and like my brain is like screaming because it's like I'm not really I'm a guide content creator, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just what I
Yep.
do. I make educational type content. I don't really make opinion based content, right? Like I just don't really do that most of the time. Although I might sometime soon. But I make guide based content. I can't do anything right now. Okay? There's nothing that I can do. I just have to sit here and suffer in silence. Okay? I don't have videos that I can make. I don't have builds that I can make. I can't think about anything. I can't do anything, dude. I'm just sitting here and I'm just like what do I do, man? Like I have nothing. I just have to sit here for 2 weeks and suffer, man. And everybody else is out here making like 15 videos a day and like
Hype
about how hyped they are
videos.
about PoE2, and I'm just like that's not me, man. I can't do anything. I've got nothing to do. So it's the struggle, man. It's such a struggle.
Dude, you're doing a really nice job hyping up everybody right now. I think you could make a beautiful rant about Path of Exile 2 and it would just explode. I mean,
I
you're
mean, I
very eloquent about communicating why this game is so exciting to not only existing PoE1 players like yourself, who's not disenfranchised, but a little like down on PoE1 as of late, looking for something new. And dude, so many new people. Video I released today, it's at like 1,000 comments already. I'm pretty sure like 70% of the comments are like, I've never played PoE, I've never played an ARPG, I'm all in.
Yep.
Like, what is the secret? This is my opening question for Jonathan. Hopefully nobody from GGG is watching. What the hell is the secret sauce that people who have never played an ARPG before are writing comments and talking about how this has made them feel like they're 7 years old again? They're a kid on Christmas morning and they've never even been invested in PoE before. And they're seeing this game and they're all in. I mean,
I
Jonathan said in the interview with DM, we thought it was going to be like a league launch. Bro.
I think there's something unique about GGG,
Mm,
and I feel like years ago we had more of this. Like if you think of the Blizzard of yesteryear, like years and
mm,
years ago when they would release a game, I was always so hyped because it felt like the people who were releasing the game actually like give a shit, right? Like it feels like they actually care. And nowadays, it feels like so much of the gaming industry has just been absorbed into these AAA, quadruple A, whatever you want to call them at this point. These companies where their only one striving goal is to make money, which is fine. I've got nothing against business people, right? People don't realize this, but gaming is not even close. It's not even close. It is the number one entertainment medium, period. Like the scale at which gaming like generates revenue and just people interacting with it
mm-hmm.
is it dwarves everything else. Movies, social, all of that. It's gaming, right? So over the years, the same thing that's happened to basically every single industry is that, people who want money have shown up, and the people who are good at making money accumulate wealth and they accumulate power. Just like what happens in PoE, right? You get a whole bunch of money, suddenly you can influence the world around you super easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people have just kind of taken over the game industry, and they just put out I think Chris said this in an interview back at like, or maybe he said it on the stage at ExileCon. He's like, we think that Diablo 4 will probably come out and maybe it'll be like a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. We're shooting for a 10 out of 10, right?
Hell yeah.
And I mean, we all saw what happened with D4. I'm not even going to go there.
Okay.
But
Good.
like but I mean, I'm not going to say that Path of Exile 2 has earned that 10 out of 10 yet. But my initial gut feeling is like it's like a 9 at least. And I haven't even really played it yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like there. And it's so nice. I think one of the best things that's ever happened to Path of Exile in general is Mark, right? Like Neon is absolute Giga Chad, dude. I was so happy when he started being more upfront and being in like the spotlight and just pushing in this direction, because Mark actually plays the game. He's actually really
Yep.
good at the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like just as good as like any of the higher end streamers that get into these high areas, right? He
Yeah,
plays
he used to
support, but
race.
I mean,
Yep. Yeah.
like he's super good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And when's the last time that you watched like, I don't know, like a campfire chat or like some person, some dev talk about their game, and they said something along the lines of like, yeah, I made this change in the game and oh, it was so good. I played like 800 hours of this league and I was so much less frustrated. It was so enjoyable to actually play. Like, when's the last time you heard a dev that works 8 hours a day at their job making the game and then goes home and plays like 8 to 10 hours a day of the same exact game that they just made and loves every single moment? Like, when's the last time that you've heard something like that? I can't think of very many times.
No, it's not common as someone who keeps up with all the industry news. And, there were a lot of hype videos about another game we won't name, showcasing developers playing the game. And those did
Yep.
not go as well as, as the showcases of Path of Exile 2 have gone so far. And it's obvious, too, when a developer does play their game and they're making decisions about the game. And when they do play the game, but they have no power in the decision making. And I think the thing is with Jonathan and with Mark and with a lot of the leadership at Grinding Your Games, they seem to actually play the game and then they can
Mhm.
influence all the big decisions behind it too. I'm so glad that Mark is behind the boss design for the most part. He wants a challenge for himself. So he wants to challenge, like you said, the best people among us and all the players. He doesn't think, okay, well, we need to make these a little easier. We need to make sure everybody can beat them in some way, right? No, he's like, this is the hardest content in the game. We're launching it in early access. We want people to struggle. We want it to be ridiculous.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you get one shot at these bosses too. So, dude, I just still can't believe it. That's going to be wild. The
It
clips
is
it's
gonna be
going to
wild,
make,
dude.
and the races too. I mean, oh, it's going to be so good.
I I wonder how many of the hardcore streamers are actually going to try to stream hardcore as their first. I feel like that's such a mistake, dude. Like
Only
even
the
the
most
devs are saying,
unhinged. Only the most
it,
unhinged.
like I know people like Quinn are probably going to do it. Like he's probably just going to go straight hardcore for just straight from the beginning. But it's
Yep.
just like even the devs were saying like you probably shouldn't play hardcore first. But
Yep.
it's just I'm so excited, dude. Like just knowing that the devs actually give a damn about their game and they just want it to be a good game. And like I want it to be successful, right? Like I always support Path of Exile whenever they make a good league, right? Like I've always been a
Mhm.
proponent of voting with my wallet, right? Um every single league that I have thought has moved Path of Exile even a little bit forward, I just buy the $60 pack, right? Like I just buy the $60 pack. I don't worry about it. I typically don't buy like the $500 pack because let's be real, that's a lot of money. I know some people bought a $500 pack for PoE2, but I
What's
don't know if
going
I'm
on,
gonna
my
buy.
man? Hey, don't call me out like that on stream.
I
Dude, the art book's
uh
so good. It's so good.
I I actually saw a little bit of the art book. Yeah, I'm very sad that I didn't get one of the that I didn't get one of the puzzle
I
cubes. I'm
know,
actually really
Ducks.
sad about
Which
that.
is crazy. They know who you are. You just got flown out to LA.
Yeah, I went
Was
to
it
2 events, but
maybe it was like
I'm
the
like,
hurricane, dude? Maybe it
mm,
like,
I
somehow knocked down some roadway. I don't know. I don't know what to think of.
I think the real reason is that I don't stream. I genuinely think that's it. I think they have like kind of a blind spot a little bit of the time when it comes to YouTube only. I think it's because I don't stream. I can't my mental can't handle streaming anymore. I did it like 6 hours a day, 5 to 7 days a week for like multiple years. Like
Ooh.
can't do it
Ooh.
anymore.
I can't do that, especially you were working full time too at the same time,
Yeah.
yeah? Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
I can't do it. This is maximum right here, right now.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm about to fall over. But it's okay. I
Yeah,
have
I was hoping that you're okay because this is a lot, dude. You're pushing hard, man.
I'm going in. Hey, I have my family supporting me. I
That's good.
haven't broken into the caffeine yet. I'm I'm
Really?
close. Okay, everybody was telling me to get Celsius energy
Ooh,
drink. Maybe.
that's pretty intense. Celsius looks can be deceiving with that. It looks very nice and simple in play. That's got a lot of caffeine in it, dude.
Yeah, see, I don't want to jump there. I don't even drink coffee. So,
I can't have caffeine at all. Like I have to.
yeah.
Well, I can, but I completely have to stay away from it because of my unfortunate starting roles that I got in life. So it is what it is.
Oh, it's all right. Now, you did mention one thing earlier when we were talking about the Infernalist that shocked me. You said it would be your second class in PoE2 that you
Correct.
start as. You already know what you're starting as?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to reveal it or do you want to save it for a video on
Sure.
YouTube?
I don't care. Well, I already kind of talked about it in the video that I posted
The Merc one?
at the worst possible time. Yeah, it turns out
Dude, it
if
sucks.
there's any PoE content creators out there that that want a lesson, don't post the video in the middle of GGG doing their presentation. I didn't think about it. I just set it for the time. Like I just set the videos for the time when the NDA dropped, and I just kind of forgot about them because I was just excited about the thing. I was just like, huh, turns out it's not a great idea. But anyways,
Good advice.
the the first class that I'm playing is the same one that I played in the event that I went to in LA. I really wanted to play the mercenary. Like from the get-go, I really genuinely wanted to play the mercenary. It just seems different, I guess
Mhm.
I could say, right? Like it's just it feels like a different experience. And by the way, I know there were some people in chat that were talking about the whole WASD thing. If you have played any game ever with WASD movement, it is like coming home. Like it is like after a long day, you're exhausted and tired and you just want to chill. It is so easy to just fall right into it. It's so super easy. And I'm a person that has like a lot of problem with my right hand wrist, like my dominant mouse hand wrist.
Mm.
And I've done anything from like the wrist pads, and I have like a perfectly ergonomic desk. I can move my desk up and down, like I've got everything. I've done basically everything that I can do, right? Like fully ergonomic adjustable chair, all that stuff. I still have wrist problems, yeah? WASD takes off so much of the mouse-based wrist pain. It's actually insane. I was in an awful setup at the event. Like I'm not going to lie. When you come from like literally investing years worth of effort into making your setup perfect for yourself, it is so hard to play on any other computer.
Mhm.
It's miserable to be honest. I had with WASD, I had almost zero wrist pain at the end of like 7 or 8 hours. Like it was actually almost zero. It was
Wow.
so nice to just not be in any kind of pain after that many straight hours of playing the game. So don't be hesitant to try out WASD. Honestly, don't be hesitant to try out controller either, because I do feel that there's a lot of classes that are gonna feel pretty good on controller. They're gonna feel pretty good on WASD, and then there's gonna be some that obviously feel good with just like straight mouse, right? Like you
Yeah.
can play different things for different stuff, but man, WASD felt good. I'm gonna use it as much as I possibly
Oh
can.
yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try WASD first, I think, and then I'm gonna go to controller. And I saw Octavian was using mouse still, point and click. Yeah, when he
Yes.
was playing like the sorceress, I think.
It was his preferred thing for everything. Actually,
Oh,
Jonathan had to like not yell at him, but he had to be like, "Yo, we need you to show off WSD a little bit." Like, come on, dude. Apparently, Octavian plays only mouse for everything. That's how he's preferred to do it.
oh, he's a mouse purist. That's amazing,
Yeah.
dude. All right, we've been talking a lot about how Path of Exile 2 is doing so many things right. Dux, I'm curious though. If there was one thing, you're Jonathan Rogers now, you have complete creative control of Path of Exile 2.
Mhm.
What one revolutionary thing do you think you could add to an ARPG? It could be from another genre of game. I know you said you were a WoW addict. I've never played World of Warcraft before, so I don't know what it's like, but I feel for you. I really do. If it was anything from a game like that or any other game that you've played, what would you love to see in an ARPG? It could even be like a league mechanic of some sort that we see in the future. I've been itching now for a Wukong in Path of Exile 2, like a boss rush. Just like boss, 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 boss. I think that'd be so cool. Maybe they'll do it, maybe not. What would you put in the game?
Hmm. Honestly, it's a tough question because
Yeah.
PoE2 just has so much already. Like, it feels like after 10 years, they've kind of explored most things. But the one thing when it comes to ARPGs in general, the one system, I guess, that I've always had this kind of soft spot like in my soul for was Diablo 2 Runewords. There was something just magical about that system, and I don't know how to describe it or even why, but just the feeling of like maybe this is a nostalgia thing, but just like the feeling of just like putting the rune words into it, and when you put that final one in there and it just becomes this crazy insanely powerful item, and just runes in general seem kind of cool. That's probably something that I would want, but it would never be able to fit, unfortunately. As for like gameplay systems, I think what PoE2 has done well over the years is that is they've done the same thing well that WoW did originally. The reason why WoW is such a monolith and the reason why it's just never been able to be dethroned is because WoW is a theme park MMO. There is just an infinite amount of content, and they're even like, I'm surprised it took them this long to start doing WoW Classic, right? There's an infinite catalog of content that they've made over the years, right? PoE2 and PoE1, like look at all the stuff that's already in PoE2, right? PoE2 has more content than basically any other ARPG out there except for PoE1, right? And it's literally in early access because they have this giant catalog that they've spent years and years and years and years and years crafting. I I feel like that's a strength, and I hope that they stick with that. I hope that we keep getting that refinement process. I hope that we keep getting, for example, I really didn't like Metamorph. I'm glad when they removed it and kind of moved it into other places.
Mm.
I would want them to just keep doing this refinement process and always be willing to question themselves and being like,
Yep.
do we really need this in here? Like, is this really that good? Like, what, like, does it have to be here? Maybe it doesn't have to be here, right? Like, I feel like Mark has been really good about making those kinds of changes and making and just being like, well, what happens if we just do it? Like, maybe it's bad and maybe we have to take it out. Sometimes you open Pandora's box, like with the currency exchange, which never going away. Thank goodness. Super happy about that.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
if if nothing else, I honestly wasn't that big of a fan of settlers in general. Like the league mechanic was kind of eh
Mm.
for me. But
Mm.
the currency exchange, bro, I have never been less frustrated playing Path of Exile in my life. Just
I
being able to log into the game and not having to go to the trail, dude. I was just like, oh, it was so
okay.
nice, man. It was
For
so
for
nice.
people who don't have a lot of time most of the time, unless they like schedule out 2 months of Path of Exile 2 content with their entire family, being able to log on and buy like all the Eldritch currency I need in 5 seconds, as opposed to
Yes.
half an hour when I get to Endgame and I'm like, all right, well, it's time to upgrade all my Well, I need to buy these embers and this. Dude, it took a few seconds, all good, all done. It's such a simple explanation. That's why I always use it. And it used to take an hour for me to do that. A few seconds now, get in, start actually playing the game. Such a huge time saver. I'm so glad. I think it was last Epoch that spurred them to finally do it. Thank you, 11th Hour Games.
I think so as well. I think
Yeah,
that competition is great. Like I know a lot of people, you know, the sentiment in the community is like, how do other places how do other games compete? Like I know a lot of people say D4 bad. I don't want these games to fail, right? Like I genuinely
no.
really don't. Regardless of what happens with all of the other, I'm gonna call them isometric ARPGs instead of Diablo likes because that's
Based, very based. Good job. Okay.
I'm just gonna. They're isometric ARPGs, right? I want there to be competition. I want there to be good games for people to play, and I want there to be like new ideas and people like. I'm so glad that GGG just made the best game that they possibly could and didn't worry about any of that extra stuff on the sidelines, right? Like who cares? Make your game good, make it work as best as you possibly can, and who cares with the competition things, right? It's competition for a reason. So like
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that they have basically just said screw it, we're putting everything in there and it doesn't matter, right?
You said it a moment ago, and I think Jonathan said it yesterday when he was talking to DM and Ghazi. Just Mark said, we're putting it in. If it fails, it fails. If it works, it works. With the rucksack on the Titan Ascendancy.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, what a wild idea. Just, we're just going to do it. And if it's
I
bad,
mean, it makes
people will
sense,
complain.
right?
Yeah.
Like thematically, it's cool. Like you're playing a Titan, like a big, giant, beefy dude. Of course, he's going to be able to hold more loot, right? Like, why wouldn't he be able to hold more loot? Like, it's such a cool thing. Like, it's an investment that you have to make on your character, right? Like, it's a whole damn ascendancy point that you got to put on, and it says equip a chest which has 20 inventory slots. That's 2 points that you got to spend on your ascendancy. Are people going to do it? I don't know. They might. Who knows?
I'm
It's just kind of cool, right?
I'm not, unless it gives me a bulky chest on the back of my character. Then I'm totally gonna do it for aesthetics. Yeah, totally gonna do
Yeah.
that. Okay, I know we've been going for an hour. Let's go just a little bit longer. Do you have time to talk a little bit longer, Dux?
As much time as you want, dude. We
Oh,
can go
awesome.
for as long
Okay.
as you want. Doesn't matter.
All right. So, Ascendancies, you talked about class identity earlier, and you were like, I
Mhm.
don't know if we should call it that. Class identity, ascendancy identity, a lot of identities there. the way that they're approaching them in Path of Exile 2, actually making Ascendancies alter your character. Not only the abilities, but giving you new skills, changing dialogue, the way characters
Mhm.
interact with you, the way you might interact with the environment. I feel like that is immersing you so much more in the world, and it goes with that endgame feeling of exploration of Ray Class 2. I feel like a lot of people are going to get sucked in so much easier because all the systems and story elements are kind of just going to just mold together so naturally. And I think that's a very intentional choice by them. What do you think about now your character actually not just being the marauder, some no name person that still doesn't have dialogue options for the latter half of PoE1? Very sad. But now you are the witch hunter. And once you become the witch hunter, you interact with the entire world differently, seemingly. What do you think about that?
The first thing I want to say about that is that I'm really tired of the people that have this sentiment where they're like, who cares about the campaign? Who cares about the story and all this? Just make the end game good. It's like, what kind of game developer is going to just like make their goal to be not having all of their game be good? Like, why would you not want it to be good? Like, it's so rare in my life these days that I can play a game where I can actually just get lost in it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the PoE community, we're a little bit older. Like, if you look at your YouTube stats on basically anybody that makes PoE content, it's more so in the late 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the audience, right? There's not that many times in my life where I really feel like I am just like locked in, sucked into the game, actually experiencing it, feeling like the world is the one that I'm in, right? I don't feel that way almost at all anymore. When I went to LA, when I went to LA this last time, I was actually getting pissed. I obviously was nice to them, but like I was getting pissed every single time that people would come and be like, "Hey," and they would like tap on my shoulder, like, "Hey, Big Ducks, there's food that you can go eat, right? Like, there's the lunch thing is gonna be gone here. You make sure you." I'm like, "I'm good, dude. I'll play the video game. Let me play the
Oh,
video
yeah.
game." Like, I don't need food. Like, just I
Yep.
didn't. That whole 7 or 8 hours were there. I did not eat. I
Good.
did not go to the bathroom. I did not get up. I sat there. I played the video game, dude. I played the hell out of that video game. And then I had to make the purposeful decision to pull myself out of that trance so that I would have like 45 minutes with the people that were there to talk with them and get information from them and such. But I very purposefully did not read any of the extra dialogue, any of the extra stuff, because when I actually get a hold of the game and when I play it, I just want to be sucked in, right? I just want to get in there. I just want to experience it, right? I clicked X escape every single time as much as I could on any dialogue. I listened to absolutely nothing. Yeah, I know what the bosses are. Who cares? I didn't listen to anything that they said. I just played the video game, right? Like, I just want to have that experience where I feel like I log into Path of Exile 2 on December 6th. I struggle with the 8 billion player base that burns down the servers in every single part of the like the world. And then every hour after that, I'm just like, wait, it's Christmas? Like, my mom's just calling me like, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be coming over for Christmas?" I'm like, "It's Christmas?" Like, no, it's like the 8th, right? Like, that's how long it's been. It's been like 2 days, right? That's the experience that I want. I just want to get sucked in because I'm not. I know this might be dumb, but I'm not going to stream. Like, I'm not going to stream. I haven't been streaming that much recently, right? Like, I'm not going to stream it, dude. I'm just going to play the game. I'm going to record everything, but I'm just going to play the game, dude. I'm not doing anything else. I'm just going to get lost. I'm going to play the game, and I'm going to have fun. Is what I'm going to do. I don't care about anything else.
I love it, man. Aside from the streaming, doing the same thing. I cannot wait to just get sucked into the dialogue, the world, progress naturally. I am going to do it. I'm not going to follow guides and stuff, and I'm going to get my ass stuck in Path of Exile 2. I just know it. I'm going to hit a wall. It's going to go horribly wrong, but I will be stubborn up until the point where my chat forces me to not be stubborn anymore. But man, you were resonating with almost everybody in the chat. I saw like a million logins. I saw everybody saying big ducks
Log in,
based.
dude.
Darth microtransaction, Dreamcore, they both love you. They wanted me to tell you that. They love you very much,
Yeah.
man.
Dude,
So
they were super cool. The whole little group, we had this like tiny group of 4 or 5 people. We just hung out together like the entire time. It was so much fun. They're super cool. Like Darth is exactly what you see on stream. That dude is like that IRL, dude. He's an absolute like awesome. Dreamcore is super cool. He had a lot of really cool information. He can pull up so much information about PoE. It's kind of insane. And then the other people that we hung out with, they're more so D4 people. So I don't
mm,
even know if the people around here know, but I'm like the Ruse from Goblin Inc. was super cool dude, super enjoyable to talk with. He's very much in the like build guide mindset as I am, right? Like him and I, when it came to like making builds, making content for builds and all of that, like literally like 1-to-1, dude. Like I felt like I like could mesh with him 100%. Everybody, all of the content creators were super cool, honestly. Havoc was also really cool. Like Havoc, myself, and Darth like walked into the middle of downtown LA at like 11 o'clock at night and got tacos from a taco truck. That was super cool. I have this
great.
habit every time when we go to LA. It's crazy that I can even say that, but every time that we go to LA, I kind of just like try to grab people and pull them out into LA to go find random restaurants and stuff. The tacos were baller, but I gotta say the restaurants near the old hotel that we went to,
Yeah.
well, first time for me, second time for everybody.
Hmm.
The restaurants that were near the first hotel were so much better. I was kind
Oh,
of
they were.
sad, but it is what it is. Yeah.
There was like an egg place, right?
The egg slut, yeah, dude,
Egg
that
slut.
that
Yeah.
place
Uh-huh.
that place is crazy. It's a chain, but like man,
Good.
they know how to make eggs, my guys. So much better than those like hard off of the. I don't even want to talk about it because they don't have them here, and I'm just sad.
One more thing before we sign off
Yep.
that I'm kind of curious on. So you've talked about it a few times. You know, at this event, Grinding Gear Games flew out a lot of people from the Diablo community. Obviously, it's far larger than the Path of Exile one. There's going to be a lot of new people after seeing all that Path of Exile 2 has to offer, coming on over, trying it out, making videos, putting out content, bringing their communities over. They all seem like pretty excellent people. Do you have any advice for anyone who might see this video, a clip of it, just for them to be prepared for Path of Exile 2 content creation or showcasing builds without a possible PoE2 in the scene yet? What advice might you
One
have?
one thing that I'd like to see,
Mm,
the first portion of this is less advice, but one thing that I'd like
sure.
to see is I would just like the communities to kind of just embrace each other at least a little bit, because I had this talk with the content creators that were at the event, right? And that I think that there is going to be a lot of people playing PoE2. Like I think Path of Exile 2, there's going to be a ton of people. There's going to be a lot of new people, a lot of new players, a lot of just like casual players. Like I think that I think you've already seen this, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
massive.
audience that's available for casual players and targeting casual players is going to be absolutely enormous. Like there's
Hello,
so many people.
what's going on?
So, yeah. So it's like when it comes to builds, the PoE community honestly has kind of gotten a little tiny bit toxic here and there. I try to just
Mm,
not engage with that area of the PoE
mm.
community. I hope that that toxicity stays in PoE 1 and PoE 2 kind of just people try to make builds, do their thing and just have fun with it. Like obviously there's outliers there, right? Like people like the PoE builds channel like no,
Not good.
if anybody
Don't.
needs to be exiled, we know. But I mean like just just do your best and actually play the builds that you're playing, right? I think
True.
the best advice that I can possibly give anybody that wants to make a build, because that's what I'm good at, right?
Yep.
I don't do I don't do the news, I don't do opinion stuff super often, but if you are going to make a build and you're going to try to make a build for the community, the thing that you really need to know is that it genuinely does not matter how many other content creators have worked on it, how many other people have done it. If people have worked on that build, if they've done stuff with it, just give them credit. Just say, hey, I took some stuff from X, Y, or Z, whatever, it doesn't matter. Play the build. Actually do the content that you think people are going to do with the build. Make it so that without a shadow of a doubt, when those players pick up your build and enjoy it, they'll always come back. They will. Like, if you consistently put out builds where you say, hey, this build is good for doing X, Y, Z, whatever that might be, right? Actually play those mechanics and push those mechanics, right? Like, make sure that the build is actually good at them. It's so often that you will see people put out a build guide for something and they'll say like, this build's good for everything, it's really good for bossing, it's really good for this, and then they'll post a clip in the video where it's like 0.2 seconds of them fighting a boss, and yeah, they're like doing a ton of but like actually play your builds, like actually play your builds, actually fully test them, and just be honest, because I know the I know the allure of the clickbait is there, and you can clickbait. I think clickbaiting is being effective, right? People hate the term clickbait,
Yeah.
but it's just being effective, right? Like, you gotta make people want to click your videos, yeah? But you don't have to straight lie to them. There's a
Right.
difference, yeah?
Mhm.
But it's like, if you are honest and you give people good content, they will return. So if you're trying to make build content, just try to be consistent and try to be honest with people as much as you can, because if you don't, and if you do fake a whole bunch of stuff, people will eventually figure it out. We've
Right.
seen situations in the PoE community before where big build content creators that release like a build a day for months at a time, it's like people eventually start to realize, that you haven't actually tested these things. Yeah,
Definitely.
that's all I got.
That's all you got. Oh my gosh, you are too humble. You are way too humble, man. Thank you so much. I have one question that you may have answered before, but I am, like I said, I'm a newbie kind of to the community. I've only been playing for like 5 years, watching lots of people for less than that. Is there lore behind the name Big Ducks? Is it because you wanted people to call you like Big D or something? What?
Is this how PG do you want the stream to be?
Let's see. I can always cut this part out of the YouTube video. I don't care.
It's
You
not
can
that.
go in, go all in. I want to hear it.
It's not that interesting of a story, okay? I made this name when I was 13, and it's exactly what you think that it is, okay? Like, okay, here the actual story is I was playing Warcraft 3 custom maps, okay?
Okay.
And there was this thing that you could do. I'm dating myself right now, aging myself right now as an absolute boomer. I was playing Warcraft 3 custom maps, and there was this thing that you could have called a spoofer, which would just let you change your name constantly to all kinds of different things with like random colors and stuff, right? And my name got like reported or something, so they force changed my name, and I'm like 13, 14, whatever. I'm like basically a kid at this point, right? Like edgy teenager. I'm like, I'm going to name myself after a dick joke. So instead of saying big dicks, I'm just going to call myself Big Ducks, and it stuck. That's literally the entire story. There's nothing else to it. That's
Dude,
it.
that's beautiful. I think that's a perfect end. Can you give a shout to where people can find you? YouTube, Twitter, wherever?
It's basically only YouTube. I've been posting a lot more on Twitter recently. It's just big_ducks on Twitter, like, or well, X, the everything app. Sorry, not Twitter.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm pretty much only on YouTube at this point. Like, I honestly don't really stream very much. If you're wanting build guide content, I'll do my best. The defining feature, I would say, of my content compared to a lot of other content is that I do very in-depth written guides, and I try to put a lot of detail in it for people who want it. I know that's not as common most of the time because it's typically not needed for most people, but if that's what you're looking for, that's what I do.
Yeah, Big Ducks is awesome, you guys. He puts out a lot of Path of Exile 1 content right now. Like he said, the writing's like always on the screen too, which is cool. So you can read through all the notes as you're presenting it. I always really appreciate that. And I'm sure the quality is going to stay up there for Path of Exile 2 as well. Big Ducks,
I'm
man,
gonna do
it
my
has been
best.
so much fun. Thank you for hopping on the hype train and talking about Path of Exile 2. It's been a blast. We'll have to talk again soon.
Yeah, man, it's been fun to be here. Thanks for bringing me on, and good luck, dude, because like you got you got a lot ahead of you, brother. So good luck
I
to you,
know.
man.
Hey, it's been going well so far. I just see the graphs going really high up, okay? And that makes me so
Line goes up,
infinitely
dude.
happy.
Number big
So,
is good.
yeah, true, very true. Green number good. I heard that advice from someone in the chat once, and it has stuck in my head ever
Yeah.
since. So, everybody watching this video, listening to me and Big Ducks talk for an hour and 15 minutes, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you ended up liking it. I will see you all in the next one, which is with Jonathan Rogers, game director on Path of Exile 2. Talakara, my fellow exiles. Big Ducks back. That was nice.